Mark Ellwood is the contributing editor of Conde Nast Traveler magazine, one of our industry's leading authorities on travel in all of its spectacular forms.
British-born and New York-based, Mark has lived out of a suitcase for most of his life, so he's uniquely placed to talk about trust in the future. He's going to look with a fresh eye at 5 major trends that are reshaping the industry in which we work.
Please join us in welcoming Mark to the stage.
Morning, everybody. I'm Mark Ellwood. Thank you. Thank you for getting here nice and early, and hopefully I will keep the energy up. I'm here to talk to you about trends. I spend my life looking at trends for Conde Nast Traveler, and I've got 5 that I think are going to be crucial for the near and long-term future for all of us. First one, planes. We are in the middle of an airport boom like we've never seen before. $1.1 trillion, that's about the same as the GDP of Mexico, is earmarked for airport construction around the world right now. Think about that. Obviously, China and India are a big part of that. More than 100 airports are coming online in both of those countries. China's got the Beijing 7-runway airport opening before the end of the year. There is a brand new airport opening in Mumbai as well. But it's easy to assume it's just the developing world. It's not. In Europe, there's a new airport in Istanbul. In London, it does look like they might finally greenlight the 3rd runway at Heathrow and expand that. And here in America, Salt Lake is midway through a $3.6 billion makeover. Why is that happening? I'll tell you why. Most of the developed world's airports were completed at the end of the sort of first golden age of aviation and intended to last for about 20 years. That would take them to the turn of the century. Unfortunately, because of 9/11, infrastructure investment was really put on hold for quite some time right at that point. And that bottleneck, that logjam, is finally being unleashed. But what does it mean for you? Well, this is Singapore Changi. I'm sure you've seen this. This basically is the dream airport. And it's a symbol of how important airports are for you as DMOs. Having a good airport, having an attractive airport, is more important than ever. They're not just transit destinations, they're hubs. People are going to choose to use that airport. People go to Changi to experience it. They want the layover to enjoy that. Look at what has happened at JFK with opening the Saranan Hotel. Okay, everyone's heard of that, right? The TWA Hotel. The best press JFK has had in decades around that gorgeous hotel. Pittsburgh has opened up its retail mall to non-flyers to try and make it more of a hub again. Airports matter more than ever. And remember, that also means there are travelers coming from unlikely destinations. More airports mean more routes, more point-to-point travel. Think beyond your conventional audiences. Look at these numbers. If I give you the countries they relate to, you might be able to guess what those numbers represent. They represent passport penetration. About 40% of Americans have passports, about 95% of Brits, which is one of the highest in the world, and about 9% of Chinese people. That number, though, is predicted to double in 2 years. Given that China's outbound tourism market is already 21% of the world tourism market, which is 10 times what it was before, that doubling is quite significant. Look at those planes. Each one of those represents 1 million people with passports. When China's number doubles, that could be radically important for the world tourism market. It's going to change destinations. Let me show you one destination it's already changed. This is a brand new train station in Britain, just outside Bicester Village. Bicester Village is a luxury outlet mall. Great place to buy designer bargains if anyone wants any tips. But it's also the 2nd most popular destination in Britain for Chinese tourists. If you're thinking, what's number 1? Obviously, it's Buckingham Palace, because nothing beats the Queen. This was just constructed to cater to Chinese tourists. Pre-recorded Chinese language announcements, Chinese language signage. At the mall itself, they grubbed out what I think was a high-end Italian restaurant to replace it with a Chinese restaurant, because Chinese travelers would rather eat Chinese food wherever they go. If you want to pay by UnionPay, if you want to use WeChat, it's all seamlessly integrated. But it isn't just destinations that are going to change like that. I was having dinner with the longtime GM of the Lanesborough in London, five-star hotel, very expensive, prestige hotel in London. He said to me, Chinese travelers are changing housekeeping for us. We're putting kettles in every room so that you can make noodles whenever you feel like it. And our housekeepers no longer leave the slippers by the bed because Chinese travelers want to take their shoes off when they get home. And other nationalities don't care either way. A very well-known hotel designer said to me recently, he said, I'm future-proofing my rooms by taking feng shui into consideration for the design. One of the big things he's doing is way fewer mirrors. He's putting mirrors inside closets because mirrors create restlessness in a room. Now, I know in America, Chinese travelers might feel very kind of so what, who cares? It might not feel like it's going to reach your destination. But stop for a second and think. China has a slew of new airlines, which are flying not just between Beijing and JFK, Shanghai and LAX. I flew Hainan from Chengdu last year. Hainan connects the west of China directly to Seattle, San Jose, Las Vegas, Boston. More routes are coming. Secondary cities like Xi'an, Kunming, those people will be able to reach America more easily than ever, and you should pay attention to that. Third trend. I put Airbnb up there, and I always think hospitality people shudder slightly, because when Homeshares came about, it did feel a little like the death knell for hotels. With a little hindsight, we can all see not the case at all. In fact, there are 17.5 million hotel rooms in the world right now. That is double the number in 2000, and 1 million more are already under construction. Hotels and homeshares are learning from each other. Marriott runs Homes and Villas. Accor bought One Fine Stay, not a great partnership, as I'm sure everyone knows. But we're also seeing Properly, a startup which allows Airbnb hosts to offer maid service like a hotel. And when Hotel Tonight was sold, it was bought by Airbnb. I had dinner with Sam Shank, who co-founded that recently, and he's in charge of Airbnb's hotel strategy. Think about that. And he dropped some very interesting hints about what they're going to do. So what is this merging, this blurring? And in fact, look at this. Is that a hotel room or is that a home share? I don't think you can really tell these days, and that is crucial. How do you make the most of this? Don't legislate, don't be Mallorca, don't be Japan. Being draconian about home shares will not work. Instead, try and think nimbly. Think about what Graduate Hotels did this summer. It offered something called a hall pass for $400. For a month, you could stay at any of Graduate Hotels' properties, maximum 5 nights, around the country. You essentially were taking up residence there. Think about the Alberghi Diffusi in Italy, which really are an economic development program. Dying villages, they took empty cottages, turned them into visitor-friendly stays, and ran them centrally. Equally, Airbnb has partnered with a developer, Nativo, to create buildings that in Miami and Austin will be pre-configured to be home shareable. It's a bit like a condotel, basically. And Okan Tower in Miami has Hilton on board to help it rent out the apartments it sells. My fourth trend. I'm sure you've seen a picture of this. This is Trolltunga in Norway. 400 people went to Trolltunga in 2009 to take a picture sitting at the end of that rock. 400. 5 years later, 40,000. And this is where I'm going to touch on over-tourism. Senior is going to talk fascinatingly about how Copenhagen dealt with that, but I just want to touch on a couple of lessons and learnings about over-tourism. In Spain, it's such a problem that there is a word for the way that local people feel about over-tourism: turismophobia. And in Venice, which is arguably, I think, the poster child for over-tourism, the density of visitors is double that of Disney World. 6.5 visitors for every staffer at Disney World, 13 visitors for every person in Venice. Just think about that next time you walk down Main Street and you think, this is busy. But remember, America, again, much like the Chinese traveler, America often thinks, what does this have to do with me? I would encourage you to think about stressed capacity in San Francisco, Miami Beach. We're ahead of the curve here, but it doesn't mean it's not coming. Antelope Canyon in Arizona is next to a town of 8,000 people. People go there to take amazing Instagrams of the natural formations. In fact, 4 million people went there last year. That is going to grow, and it is going to stress out infrastructure. So what do? Again, no regulations. This is not the way to go. Do not be Venice and punish people. Be Amsterdam. Wouldn't we all love to be Amsterdam? I think we can admit that. Amsterdam used nudging techniques. It ran videos of the lines outside major museums on its website. If you're a tourist, you can pick up your phone, check a live feed, and see, oh, I'll go back later. Barcelona scraped geotags from social media to look at places in the city that were already popular among tourists, that were beyond Las Ramblas, and then it marketed against those. It also looked at the cluster around the Sagrada Familia, the congestion there was, and it used cell phone data. Took cell phone data from around the Sagrada Familia, stripped out the locally registered phones, and anonymized the results. It learned how tourists were moving around that building and how they didn't really know how to find their way. So they changed the entrances and exits to ease the congestion. Very interesting. Over-tourism is not about punishing. Don't be Venice. Don't shame people. Be any of these cities. Be Copenhagen. My last trend goes forward, avocado toast, millennial pink. You know what I'm going to say. And I think even the millennials in the room might sort of sigh when I mention millennials. Again, this is a familiar trend. We've talked about how millennials shape travel. You know, hotel lobbies aren't the forbidding places anymore. Someone take your laptop and hang out. Yes, rooms are no longer all white and stark. You want bright colors, textures that you can social media. But I don't think that's the fundamental change. If you look at data, 80% of millennials say they would prefer to take many short trips in the year rather than one big vacation. 53% say they're planning more weekends away. These micro trips are a big change in behavior. What does that mean for you? There are opportunities and challenges. It means that the peaks and troughs of high and low season might even out a bit more. You've got more chance to have people coming year-round. But equally, those short trips, they could go to Europe for the weekend. And remember, with all those new hotels and new routes, you're competing for attention with Europe. I would also remind you that historically for many destinations, drive-in audience was very important. I think that often gets forgotten today. I think in a millennial-driven era, the drive-in market will be more important than ever because they can drop everything on a whim and come for that weekend away. Those are my 5 key trends. I hope I've helped you see some things that might be familiar in a slightly different way, and I hope I've introduced you to some new concepts that will be of use for the future. I will be around for the next day or so, and I would love to hear, please do come up to me. I'd love to hear your anecdotes and stories relating to those trends, or any trends I haven't yet noticed that maybe I can include next time. Thank you so much.